The hospital in Tokyo goes silent at 3:42 a.m., not the peaceful silence of sleep, the silence of absence. A nurse checks the maternity ward monitors, 14 women in labor, 14 heartbeats but no second heartbeats. The babies, all of them, have stopped, not died. Stopped, frozen mid-development. She checks the equipment, reboots the system, same result. She walks to the delivery room. A woman is screaming, pushing, but nothing is happening. The doctor looks at the ultrasound. The fetus is there, perfectly formed, but motionless, not breathing, not growing, suspended. The doctor tries again. Nothing. He looks at the nurse. She's already on the phone with another hospital. They're reporting the same thing. Every hospital in Tokyo, then Seoul, then Mumbai, then London, then New York within 6 hours. Every medical facility on Earth confirms the same impossible reality. Human reproduction has stopped. Not slowed, stopped. No new pregnancies are occurring. Existing pregnancies have frozen, and no one knows why. You're watching the news when the first reports break. The anchors are confused, skeptical. They're calling it a hoax, a technical glitch, bad data. But the reports keep coming. Hospitals across every continent, every country, every city. 0 births in the last 24 hours. 0 successful conceptions. The anchors stop joking. Their faces change. One of them, a woman in her 30s, visibly pregnant, puts her hand on her stomach, live on camera. She's shaking. The broadcast cuts to an emergency government address. The president looks like she hasn't slept. Her voice cracks when she speaks. We are investigating reports of a global cessation of human fertility. We urge calm. We urge the feed cuts. Not because of technical issues, because no one knows what to say. How do you tell 8 billion people that the species just hit a biological wall? The first 72 hours are chaos, not the violent kind, the psychological kind. Fertility clinics are overrun. Women demanding tests, couples screaming at doctors. Everyone wants to know if they're the exception. They're not. The tests come back the same. 0 viable eggs, 0 successful fertilization. Sperm counts are normal. Eggs are present, but the mechanism that creates life has simply ... stopped. Geneticists are baffled. Endocrinologists have no answers. The biological processes are intact, but reproduction isn't happening. It's like the universe flipped a switch and turned off humanity's ability to continue. Religious communities explode into interpretation wars. Christians call it the rapture's beginning. Muslims see it as a test from Allah. Atheists scramble for scientific explanations that don't exist. Cults form overnight, claiming they have the solution, the prayer, the ritual that will restore fertility. Governments try to maintain order, but they're operating in the dark. There's no precedent, no protocol, no emergency plan for the entire species becoming sterile simultaneously. Markets collapse, not because of economics, because investors realize that every industry built on future generations' education, real estate, insurance, pensions just became obsolete. The Dow drops 40% in 2 days, then 50. Then trading is suspended globally because there's no floor, no bottom, just freefall. You see it in people's faces. The parents holding their children tighter. The pregnant women's frozen in permanent pregnancy being hospitalized as their bodies try to process what's happening. The couples who are trying for kids sitting in silent apartments staring at negative tests they'll keep taking even though they know the answer. The 20-year-olds who thought they had time, suddenly realizing time just ran out. Humanity has been severed from its future. And the psychological weight of that realization is crushing. 1 month in, the first schools start closing. Not immediately, but kindergartens notice enrollment dropping to 0. Daycare centers shut down. Maternity wards are converted to other uses because there are no babies to deliver. Toy companies file for bankruptcy. Gerber, Fisher-Price, Pampers, entire industries built on childhood evaporating overnight. The economy doesn't adapt. It convulses. Unemployment spikes as sectors that depended on continuous population growth collapse. Teachers, pediatricians, child psychologists. Millions of jobs rendered obsolete because the next generation isn't coming. Fertility becomes the only thing anyone talks about. Scientists work around the clock. CRISPR experiments, hormone treatments, artificial wombs, nothing works. They can create embryos in labs, but the embryos don't develop. They sit in petri dishes, frozen at the cellular level as if waiting for permission that never comes. Governments throw billions at research, then trillions. Desperate, frantic, but you can't solve a problem you don't understand. And no one understands this. Countries start turning on each other. Accusations fly. Bioweapons, secret experiments, environmental toxins. China blames the US blames Russia. Everyone blames someone because the alternative that this is natural, random, inexplicable is too terrifying to accept. Border conflicts erupt, not over resources, over blame, over the need to punish someone for the end of everything. The UN holds emergency sessions, they accomplish nothing. You can't negotiate with biology. Black markets emerge. Fake fertility treatments sold for life savings. Women who claim to be pregnant lying, desperate for attention or money are exposed and attacked. Human trafficking spikes as criminal organizations try to find the mythical, still fertile woman. They don't exist. But desperation doesn't care about facts. Women globally are subjected to invasive testing. Governments, terrified of extinction, implement mandatory fertility screenings. Privacy dissolves. Bodily autonomy becomes negotiable. The pressure on women is unbearable. They're blamed, shamed, tested, monitored, as if they're withholding fertility out of spite, as if their bodies are malfunctioning on purpose. Dating culture collapses. Why date if there's no future? Why build a family if family ends with you? Marriages drop by 70%, not because people stop loving each other, because the structure that gave relationships meaning, building toward something, creating legacy, raising the next generation, has been amputated. Couples sit across from each other asking, what's the point? Some find new points, most don't. Divorce rates spike, then flatten, because even divorce requires caring about the future, and the future just became a countdown. Nihilism rises, not as philosophy, as lifestyle. Why save for retirement if humanity dies before you reach it? Why build a career if there's no one to inherit your work? Why create art if there's no one to appreciate it in 50 years? Suicide rates triple, then quintuple. Governments try to intervene. Mental health hotlines are overwhelmed. But how do you counsel someone living through species extinction? What hope do you offer when hope has an expiration date? 10 years pass. The youngest children are now teenagers. They're called the last generation. Capital L, capital G. They grow up knowing they're it, the final humans. There will be no one after them. The psychological weight is catastrophic. They're not preparing for adulthood. They're preparing for obsolescence. Schools teach them. But for what? Universities accept them. But why? Every institution designed to prepare youth for the future is operating on autopilot, going through motions that no longer have meaning. 20 years in, those children are adults. The youngest person on Earth is now 20. There are no toddlers, no children, no teenagers, just adults and the elderly. Playgrounds sit empty. Parks that once rang with children's laughter are silent. Toys and stores gather dust. The world starts to feel like a museum, a monument to a species that used to renew itself. 30 years. The workforce is aging rapidly. Retirement age is pushed back because there's no one to replace the retirees. The economy is a Ponzi scheme collapsing in slow motion. Pension systems fail. Social security dissolves. The entire structure depended on young people supporting old people. There are no young people. The old are left to fend for themselves, or die. Many choose the latter. 50 years. The youngest humans are 50 years old. Half the global population is over 70. Hospitals are overrun with geriatric patients, but there are no young doctors, no young nurses. The medical students from 30 years ago are now in their 50s, exhausted, trying to care for billions of elderly. Infrastructure crumbles. Not from neglect, from lack of bodies to maintain it. Roads decay, bridges collapse, power grids fail. The complexity that civilization required billions of people, each playing a small specialized role, is impossible with a shrinking, aging population. Countries start vanishing. Small nations first. Island populations die out. Then larger countries, governments cease to function. Why govern when there's no future to govern for? Borders become irrelevant. Militaries disband. There's no one to fight. No territory worth claiming. The world becomes a collection of retirement communities, scattered and isolated, waiting for the end. 60 years. The youngest person alive is 60. Humanity is a geriatric ward. The planet is quiet. Cities are empty. Most people have retreated to small communities where they can care for each other as they age. Technology fails, not because it stops working, because there's no one young enough to maintain it. The internet fragments, then disappears. Satellites fall from orbit. The digital infrastructure that connected 8 billion people dissolves. The world becomes local again. Small, disconnected. 70 years. You are old. If you were 20 when this started, you're 90 now. You've watched the world end in slow motion. Watched friends die. Watched cities empty. Watched civilization decline, not into chaos but into silence. Peaceful, quiet, sad. You sit in a room with others your age. No one speaks. What is there to say? You had a good run. Humanity lasted a few 100,000 years, built cities, created art, went to space, and then just stopped, not with a bang, with a whimper. 80 years. The last human dies. Alone, probably. There's no one left to record it, no one to mark the moment. Humanity doesn't end with a grand finale. It ends with an old person closing their eyes in an empty room and not waking up. The lights stay on for a while, automated systems keep running, but there's no one to see them, no one to care. The earth continues. Animals thrive. Nature reclaims cities. But consciousness, human consciousness, is gone. The universe's only known observers went extinct, and the universe didn't notice. I am the simulator. I showed you what happens when the future is taken away, not through war, not through disaster, just through biology saying no more. You think humanity is permanent, inevitable, that there will always be a next generation. But what if there isn't? What if the mechanism that's been running for 300,000 years just stops? You don't get to vote on it, you don't get to fix it, it just ends. And you're left holding everything you built for a future that will never come. The fragility isn't in our systems, it's in our biology. We're one biological switch away from extinction, and we have no backup plan, no redundancy. We put all our species in one basket, and assumed the basket was indestructible. It's not. You're watching this video in a world where children exist, where pregnancy is normal, where the future is assumed. But that assumption is just that, an assumption, one that could be revoked tomorrow. And if it is, everything you're working toward, every plan, every dream, every structure built on the idea of later, becomes irrelevant instantly. Here's your final question. If you knew humanity had 80 years left, would you live differently today? Or would you keep building for a future you know won't come? Think about it. Because the only thing separating you from that reality is luck, biological luck, and luck runs out.